All right, in today's whiteboard video, we're going to go over what exactly is strength and what makes someone strong, okay? So you can see in the fitness world, we have grown in the roots of bodybuilding, okay? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dorian Yates, all the different Mr. and Mrs. Olympias. When people think about working out, they think about bodybuilding aesthetics. And although that is how you build a great body and physique on a muscular level, that doesn't necessarily carry over to being strong. Now, we've made videos in the past on what exactly strength to mass ratio looks like. So that is how strong you are to your body weight. That if you want, you can go check that video out on the channel. And that is a goal of a lot of strength training, okay? So the good metaphor I like to use is exactly that. Picture the 225-pound, jacked, 6'6" person that is, aesthetically very pleasing, but they might not be able to deadlift or bench or do a lot of chin-ups compared to their body weight because they're so big and muscular, but they don't know how to express strength. And that's the key here, is learning to express strength. And you find sometimes you'll walk on a job site, there'll be a 115-pound male who's been roofing his whole life, just slinging sheets of drywall, sheets of plywood, sheets of shingles, and you're like, how is that guy so strong? It's because he's done what he needs for work a repeatedly amount of time and hasn't factored in his nutrition, and that's what has made him so strong, because strength doesn't always show up in size, and this is why, okay? So strength in every muscular contraction is always determined by, number one, the brain. Everything the human body does with movement is stemming from our brain, which is the conductor system to our body, okay? So I'm not going to get too far into the science, but just a quick breakdown. From there, we have nerves running from our brain to signal our muscle, okay? So there's a point in the track, you can think of a train track stopping at a station, called the neuromuscular junction. Now what at this junction does, depending on the size of signal from the brain, that's going to signal how much muscle fiber to use, okay? So if you're picking up a can of soup, this is going to be a weak signal. If you need to deadlift 500 pounds, this is going to be a strong signal. Okay? Now, the stronger the signal, the more muscle fibers that it's going to recruit. Okay? So back to that bodybuilding image, they have a lot of muscle fibers. Okay? So in the muscle cell, there's a bunch of different layers of tissue, right, that you can add or subtract. We want to add layers of muscle so that we can use the brain to signal more muscle, which can then allow us to express more strength, whether that be lifting weights in a specific sport or in our specific career or life path, okay? Now, how we can train this whole system to work better, to increase that strength to mass ratio. So when we want neural adaptations, we want things that involve fast expression of force at high loads, okay? So this is your typical strength kind of workout parameters. So you're thinking low repetitions between 1 and 5, we'll call it, at high percentages, right? And what that does is, although we're not accumulating a lot of fatigue, we are generating a larger signal, okay? So the metaphor I like to use for true absolute strength training, which is the low rep setup, compound movements, is when we're doing this, yes, we're using muscle, but we're trying to add more voltage to the target tissue, okay? So obviously we're trying to signal more motor units and signal the muscle fiber, but I like to just, in layman's term, whenever we're doing, strength stimulus, we're trying to add more voltage. So just think of more plugs being put in to our neuromuscular junction at the muscle cell, okay? So that's why you never want to strength train super fatigued, and you never want to accumulate or do a high reps with high weight. One, because your technique will likely break down because this system will fail. Two, because all we're trying to do is signal the nervous system to recruit more fibers and add more voltage, okay? Now, that's step one of the equation. Step two, at the muscular level, we want to grow the muscle. So without nutrition playing a factor, because the more you eat, the more calories we have available to use for energy, which will gain more muscle. But when we're doing quote unquote more traditional hypertrophy phase, right, you can do it in different ways. All we're trying to do is fatigue the muscle so that it causes micro damage, so then we can recover, repair, and then the muscle tissue is ready for more damage next workout. So this, you can do this any which way you want. You can do a bunch of sets at this kind of low rep, high percentage, right? Because the key here in most studies, we're trying to get to like 40 to 50 good working reps, okay? With high mechanical tension, okay? And with mechanical tension being every time we stretch and shorten a muscle, there's acid release that's causing fatigue. The more we do that, the more fluid that builds up, the more that the tissue is now damaged, and then we start that recovery process. Because the bigger those little layers of muscle are in the muscle cell, the more our voltage has to grab onto, okay? So strength stimulus, we're adding voltage. Muscular stimulus, we're trying to isolate. So think of a bicep curl or a leg extension. We're isolating the target muscle tissues, and we're trying to mine more damage, okay? So how we do that, we can do 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 8, 3 sets of 15, whatever it might be, as long as we're getting the working tissues to a point of fatigue or near fatigue. That is going to make sure that we're layering those mining of new muscle tissues, okay? So whenever you're thinking of your program design, obviously you can incorporate all this into one session, but all the things that are fast and involve strength, like plyometrics, compound lifts, squats, benches, deadlifts, overhead presses, whatever it might be, when we're loading the bar heavy and we're going for low reps, yes, we're recruiting muscle fiber, but we're getting more of a neuromuscular adaptation, which is helping the brain develop and signal better, and we're adding voltage. And then when we're going for more of a muscular adaptation, which might be 3 to 4 to 5 sets of high reps or low reps, whatever it might be, we're trying to mine damage, dig for damage, quote unquote, and layer on more tissue so that we can signal more muscle fibers to contract in our next workout, okay? So that is why how you train is going to react or reflect on how you're going to adapt to the training sessions. So if you want to go in a fully powerlifting phase, you're going to get more of that neuromuscular adaptation. If you want to go strictly in a hypertrophy training phase, you're going to get a lot of aesthetically pleasing, muscle building, but may not get the same crossover to being strong relative to your body weight, okay? So that's why sometimes, as I said before, you'll see a light person, 115, 130 pounds, but they're strong as an ox. It's because they have a very high and efficient neuromuscular system that signals all of their muscle fibers they have, even though they're not that heavy. They have dense muscle fiber areas that can be signaled upon by their brain, and that's why sometimes when you see a big, large, jacked male or female aesthetically have a lot of muscle, but they don't express strength well, it's because they've never done any training that improves the voltage of that neuromuscular junction and improves the efficiency of how their brain signals to the cell to then fire muscle, okay? So that is a quick breakdown on kind of what is strength and how you can become strong relative to your body weight. And if you enjoyed content like this, make sure you keep following along.